Alright, brace yourselves for this T word on the streets, is that Nicki Minaj just dropped the bombshell and filed for divorce from her hubby of 5 years, Kenneth. Petty fans had been screaming for her to kick Kenneth to the curb for ages. And now we see why. It's allegedly because he's been getting physical with Nicki and controlling her with drugs. Looked like Nicki's finally had enough of being his puppet and taking crap from him. Not only did she file for divorce, but she also allegedly slapped him with a restraining order for the violence. Honey, grab hold of your edges because this is one wild ride, baby. Y'all won't believe the wild news that's making the rounds. Word on the street is that Nicki Minaj has secretly filed for divorce from her hubby of 5 years, Kenneth Petty. And hold on to your hats, because it's not just any divorce. There are some serious duty allegations, and she's reportedly asking for a restraining order against him. Now, don't shoot the messenger. But fans saw this drama brewing from a mile away. It's not about Nicki, it's all about Kenneth and his past antics. When Nicki and Kenneth tied the knot, we were all thrilled for her, thinking she'd found her fairy tale and happy ending at last. Their love story seemed like something out of a romance novel. They go way back to their teenage years in Queens, New York, and they were even high school sweethearts. How cute is that? They lost touch for a while, but in 2019, they ended up getting married in a super secret ceremony. Fans only found out when Nicki dropped a surprise bomb on Instagram, showing off their Mr. and Mrs. mugs and rocking bride and groom snapbacks. We were happy for her, but it didn't really make a lot of sense at the time. Nicki's always been loud and bold with her celebrations, so why keep her wedding hush-hush? Looking back now, it kind of clicked. She probably knew fans wouldn't approve of Kenneth Petty because of his super controversial past. And she was right. Back in '95, Kenneth got into serious trouble for allegedly saying his ex-girlfriend. He ended up doing his years in the slammer and was on supervised release from 2013 to 2018. The New York State folks even labeled him a level 2 offender, meaning they thought he might mess up again. It all traces back to '95 when he supposedly used weapons to coerce his ex into, well, saw. But wait, there's more. In July 2019, after moving to California post-wedding, Kenneth got arrested for not registering as an offender. He had to cough up $20,000 to get out, and considering we still don't know what he does for work besides being Mr. Nicki Minaj, it's safe to say Nicki probably footed the bill. But here's the kicker. Why didn't Nicki nudge him to register knowing the risk? And as if that wasn't bad enough, a year later in 2020, it came out that he was looking at up to 10 years behind bars and a lifetime of supervised probation. Talk about a whirlwind of drama. One source claimed the problem that the courts will have is, okay, I see that, but the problem is just because he's famous now doesn't mean he was famous when he got the charge. He wasn't famous when he was first required to register. He knows what he's supposed to do, and he didn't do it. To say that fans were shook would be an understatement. Everyone was losing their minds. I mean, the idea of the world's top rapper getting married to someone like Kenneth was just wild. The internet practically exploded with the news. There were a lot of think pieces from fans over this, like this person who said, "I wish I felt bad, but I don't. She's mean to other women, and she defended her brother at his Saw trial." Then you marry this man, you're the company you keep. Makes you wonder. For some context, Nicki's brother was arrested for Saw, and his stepdaughter, who was only 12 at the time. Things got even worse when during the trial Nicki wrote a letter defending her brother and asking the judge for leniency, even after it was proven he committed the crime. He was eventually sentenced to prison, leaving Nicki looking pretty embarrassed. So when you think about it, it's not all that surprising she ended up with a man like Kenneth. It also didn't help that Nicki continually defended Kenneth against the internet. She wrote, "He was young, she was young, and in a relationship. But go off internet. You can't run my life. You can't even run your own life. We love Nicki, but this is just not okay." Did she really mean it's okay to be intimate without your partner's consent? Just because her husband was with the victim back then, and then things really went downhill. In July 2022, Petty got hit with a year of house arrest for failing to register as an offender. When he moved to Cali with Nicki in 2019, plus, he had to pay a whopping $500,000 fine, and guess who probably footed that bill? Yep, Nicki. So instead of hitting the road and going on tour, Nicki had to stay home with her man. Nicki was pulling out all the stops to defend Kenneth, but fans weren't buying it, especially after hearing that Nicki allegedly tried to hush up her husband's victim with some cash. You can't make this stuff up. When Kenneth's ex Jennifer decided to take legal action, Nicki's team went into overdrive trying to silence her. They reportedly offered her hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep quiet. But Jennifer wasn't having it. She came armed with solid evidence revealing that she'd been in touch with the U.S. Marshals, who claimed to have uncovered concrete proof about the events of 1995. Talk about drama. This made Nicki look even worse, and she got dragged for filth, with one person making a solid point, saying no matter how much you like Nicki's music, it's wrong to sweep her actions under the rug. She's literally accused victims of lying and even tried to buy their silence. You can still like her music, But you don't need a degree in morality and ethics from Harvard to understand that Nicki is in the wrong here for once, as TS need to take off their rose-colored glasses and hold their faves accountable. And as other fans have pointed out, Nicki doesn't really have an issue working with men who have been accused of assault because she had worked with a convicted offender and rapper Tekashi 69 in October 2015. When he was 1969 pleaded guilty to using a 13-year-old in a performance, Nicki quickly defended him and said, "I wanted him to perform with me at the VMAs. It is what it is when I know somebody. There's nothing you can tell me about him. That's just how it is, Chile." Nicki really needs to get someone to handle her social media cause she'd be going off and making herself look even worse. So after Nicki tied the knot with Petty, it looked like her music game took a hit. Even though she welcomed a cute baby boy, it seemed like she pressed pause on her career to be a full-time mom and ride with Kenneth. Instead of her usual spotlight vibe, she started doing a bunch of Instagram live sessions from home. Kind of weird for Nicki, right? She's all about empowerment and chasing dreams then. In September 2019, she dropped a bombshell about retiring from the music scene on The Shade Room and later hit up her 22.2 million Twitter fan with the news saying, "I've decided to retire and have my family. I know you guys are happy now." Her fans were shook, replying with heartbroken no's and asking why she couldn't be both a mom and a rapper. But she seemed set on bowing out to have her man's back. She later relented and deleted the tweet. She also made a new tweet where she said, "I'm still right here, still madly in love with you guys. And you know that in hindsight, this should have been a Queen radio discussion, and it will be. I promise you guys will be happy. No guests, just us talking about everything." The tweet was abrupt and insensitive. "I apologize, babe." In a later interview with Billboard, Nicki backtracked on her retirement plans by saying, "I love music and interacting with fans, so I can't really see taking myself completely away, but I want to be open to other possibilities in my life. I do believe it is important to become a woman outside of the magnifying glass I have to make sure that I'm well-rounded as a human being." At this point, fans started to wonder if there was more to the story because Nicki was sending mixed signals. That's when the speculation began that maybe she was being controlled and manipulated by Kenneth because her behavior seemed all over the place. Nicki then accused her fans of hurting her feelings by being upset when she claimed that she was retiring. She said that, "Yeah, I didn't know my fans would act like that with a tweet. It hurt my feelings because I feel like the way I did it was maybe insensitive to my fans. But I didn't think people were going to take it. I didn't know it was going to be that big of a deal, so that's why I deleted it." Things took a turn for the worse when Kenneth's 1995 Saw victim Jennifer Ho spoke out, alleging that Nicki and Kenneth were harassing her and even getting their friends involved in the mix. Jennifer also revealed that she couldn't work and had to move homes due to the harassment. And just when you thought it couldn't get any crazier, Jennifer dropped a bombshell claiming that Nicki and Kenneth got someone named Black to offer her $20,000 to lie and say Kenneth never mistreated her, basically trying to buy her silence. Remember that detail because it's important for what comes next. So Jennifer rightly took legal action against Nicki and Kenneth because, let's be real, she didn't sign up for any of this. And let me tell you, the courtroom drama, it's next level. I've seen my fair share of celebrity scandals, but this one is off the charts. You know how these celebs can get into some wild stuff. Well, let me tell you, Nicki, Kenneth, and their legal squad really fumbled the ball by missing the deadline to respond to the lawsuit. Jennifer and her legal team saw their chance at pounced, asking the judge for a jaw-dropping $20 million default judgment. For those not in the know, a default judgment happens when one side in a lawsuit fails to respond, leading the judge to make a call without hearing their side. Now, Jennifer was totally in her rights to go for that default judgment, but both Nicki and Kenneth were quick to file motions to squash those default judgments. And here's the kicker: Nicki and her hubby were sued separately, and they even hired separate lawyers, so they're not joined at the hip or anything. Fast forward a bit, Nicki dodged the default judgment bullet, but Kenneth wasn't so lucky. He's not taking that lying down, though. Oh no, he's fired back with a response that spilled so much tea that even I was taken aback. So what's the scoop in his comeback? You better buckle up, because it's juicy. Kenneth also dropped a bombshell, claiming he struggled to find a lawyer to respond because everyone he reached out to demanded exorbitant fees, with some even asking for retainers as high as $100,000. But that's not all. Kenneth wanted to set the record straight. He clarified that he wasn't convicted of violating Jennifer in 1994, but rather of attempting to do so. He insisted that their encounter was consensual and that he only pleaded guilty because he was scared 16-year-old who didn't know what else to do. He accused Jennifer of trying to make him look like a violator when he was never convicted of that. Furthermore, he denied ever asking anyone to threaten Jennifer, according to Kenneth. The man named Black acted on his own accord because he was friends with both him and Nicki. Kenneth claimed he never instructed Black to contact Jennifer or offer her money. he said Black, who was a mutual friend of his and Jennifer's in the past, asked for Nicki's number.